Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Pod.
The podcast which you are about to hear is the account of the tragedy which befell a group of three people, Kim Morrison, Lee Hutchison and Dallas King. It is all the more tragic in that most of them were young, but had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished, to see as much of the mad and macabre as they did see that day. For them, it was Quiet Friday on Netflix that soon became a nightmare. The events of that day were to lead to this review of one of the most bizarre crimes against cinema in the annals of American history, the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The only question remains, who will survive and what will be left of them? Hello and welcome to Filibuster, and I am Dallas King, and with me, as I briefly alluded to earlier, are Lee Hutchison.
Hi there.
And Kim Morrison.
Hello.
Hello. So yes, we are here at basically Kim's behest, really. At the end of the Scream episode that we did about a month ago, she was saying that this is the film that she wanted to come back on to talk about. We'll see if it lived up to her expectations, however high or low they may have been. So yes, this is the, looking at my records, 9th Texas Chainsaw Massacre film since the original came out in 1974, directed by Tobe Hooper. And yeah, it's gone through a variety of guises and iterations in that time. Lee, I'm going to come to you first. What is your history with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise? How many films have you seen, and did it leave a lasting impact?
I doubled my number last week from 1 to 2. But I had really fond memories of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I was maybe about 20 years ago. I had a friend that had it on video. You know, it was that kind of age where you were maybe kind of watching some sort of horror movies or rentals kind of at a friend's house. And, you know, if someone asked me about anything that kind of happened in the film, it'd probably be quite thin. But I have really fond memories of enjoying it and liking it a lot. But kind of everyone knows my experience with horror movies. It's pretty thin on the ground, so I kind of had a wee look on sort of Letterboxd. You know how it can show you sometimes on a list like you've seen X amount of these movies, and I thought, oh, maybe I've seen one or two of them, you know, perhaps over the years, or maybe the odd remake or something like that. But that's never been the case. But you know, if someone asked me what I thought of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it would be, you know, forgettable, but actually I really remember having a good time with it. So yeah, that's about all it amounts to for me.
And I just need to clarify, when you say 20 years ago, you are talking about the original 1974, not the one which is nearly 20 years old in itself, the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel.
Yeah, I remembered, I think a friend put that on in the background for about 5-10 minutes, but I think I didn't really pay much attention to it. I can perfectly imagine my friend's conservatory at the time that was on in the background, but I didn't pay much more attention to it than that. But no, it was the original movie, and come to think of it, I think I more associate the X-Files episode Home, which sort of draws a lot from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think I could tell you everything about that episode. You know, that's one of my all-time favorite X-Files episodes than I could about my original the Texas Chainsaw Massacre experience.
So you were never tempted to sort of go back through some of the other iterations that included, you know, Oscar nominee Viggo Mortensen, perhaps, or double Oscar winners Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation?
No, no. I've been aware of some of these movies, but no, I had never gone beyond the original until last week.
Well, I think that Kim might be able to beat you on the total number of Texas Chainsaw Massacre films seen, and I believe she has actually got a complete set, to use a sort of Panini sticker album term. You've collected them all, and you even ranked them recently on the weekend. So had you seen all of them before this point, and were these rewatches to lead up to the new one, or were there any sort of first watches for you on this time?
I watched some. Well, I seen the first one. I think I've told this story before, but I saw it when it was on the TV, like the first time after it got kind of unbanned, which I think was like 1999 when I googled it, which means I was 12. So that was the first time I watched the first one, and I was obsessed with it because it was properly terrifying. Like it was so scary. I remember watching it from like a small hole in my quilt when I had the rest of it like wrapped around my head, and then I went to see the remake in the cinema, and now I wasn't 18. I think I was nearly 18. I remember someone else buying me the ticket so I could like sneak in and wearing like my highest pair of shoes so that I could go and see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the cinema because I was obsessed. And the remake's terrific as well. Like I think it's not very often that you get a remake that's like on par with the original, but the Texas Chainsaw one is definitely very close, even though it's very different. And then I think I must have seen the next two in the cinema as well. I definitely went to see the 3D one in the cinema because that was amazing. And then, yeah, I think I watched the ones I hadn't seen, which was like 2, 3, 4 and Leatherface. Maybe like a year and a bit ago, I wrote an article about sort of the differences in Leatherface's portrayals in all the films, because yeah, across the sequels he's a very different person. So I watched sort of the gaps then, and that was when I bought them all the missing ones that I didn't have. I bought them all to kind of complete the collection. So I'll be hoping that Netflix bring this one out somehow so that I can actually have them all on my shelf. So yeah, I didn't rewatch any in prep for this because I felt like I had seen them all enough, and also I usually make my poor boyfriend watch horror films with me, and I think making him sit through all 8 of them a year and a half ago was probably enough for him for a lifetime. So yes, I just went in prepared for this one, having all the knowledge, hopefully, of Leatherface already.
So were these like steelbook releases, or was this like a trawl through like CEX or somewhere like that to pick them up?
So I got the second film on Arrow Blu-ray, so it's a really fancy one. And then like I think my original Texas Chainsaw DVD is like a collector's edition one. It's like the kind of cardboard sleeve one that you kind of see everywhere that had like a little book in it and stuff. But and I owned the remake already, but every other one it was like, yeah, I think I got them off like Music Magpie on eBay or like World of Books on eBay, and things. I think I probably paid the most for like The Next Generation, which is probably the worst one, so I maybe regret that. But yeah, it's such a weird, like tonally different franchise. It's very interesting to watch them all in a row like I did and sort of see the difference. But yeah, the fanciest one I own is definitely the Arrow Blu-ray of the second one. All the other ones are sort of yeah, kind of beat up old DVD basic copies.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think I told the story on I think it was probably the Censor podcast that we did about how the first time I saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre I was in America on holiday, and we were in a video store, and they had quite clearly a dodgy knockoff pirate copy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I think I was about 18 at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm just starting to get to horror films. I've seen a few. I've heard about this one. You know, I think this was after like Exorcist had been re-released, and I'd seen stuff like American Werewolf in London and things. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna be like the coolest kid in school. You know, no one else is gonna have a copy of this. And then you get back, and then it felt like maybe it was probably like 7 months, but it felt like weeks later they announced that the BBFC had decided to release Texas Chainsaw Massacre in cinemas completely uncut, and I was like, oh, right. But, for a while I did have like a dodgy sort of VHS copy, which I think added to the sort of grubbiness of the whole thing. And, it's one of my favourite horror films of all time. What I love about it is completely sort of shocking and terrifying, but actually when you actually go back and watch it, it's not actually that gory. It's all sort of implied, I think, or sort of shown off screen, and I think the most terrifying thing is just poor Marilyn Burns' face and eyeballs in the final scene, where she may have started to question what kind of film she was doing and whether she was going to make it off set alive, I think, at that point, because it's just, but I love the sort of gallows humor of like Grandpa being the best killer of them all and can't even hold a hammer anymore and stuff like that. But obviously Leatherface is the iconic character that came out of that, and I think I want to talk about his actual character across some of the movies and stuff like that, because I've got theories on how some of the movies maybe mishandled or maybe misinterpreted his character from the first one. But in terms of the other ones that I've seen, I haven't seen all of them actually, but I've definitely seen the one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. I saw the 2003 remake, and then I think I also saw the whichever was it also then called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in when would that have been? Or was it Texas Chainsaw 3D?
Yeah, it's just Texas Chainsaw.
Is it just Texas Chainsaw? Yeah, the one with Alexandria Daddario, who turns out to be related to the Sawyers or the whatever, and it's like Chuck's Leatherface's chainsaw, and says like someone like "Go get him, cuz," or something. It's just like, wow, okay, that's an interesting route to take that. So I've seen them, and then so I didn't have the chance, and for some reason they're not the kind of things which are just easily available on your not free streaming services, but monthly paid subscription. You've got to rent them for extra money on Prime and stuff like that. And to be honest, I wasn't willing to do that, given the apparent quality of some of them. So I sort of came into this one fairly, not knowing too much about it, apart from the fact that it had been sold to Netflix by Legendary Pictures because of some dodgy test screenings. Apparently, the original director had left during production, and it sounded like a bit of a mess. But sometimes these things can work out. And so, the story of the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, now, as far as I'm aware, and feel free to correct me on this, because it's not the best explained, I don't think, in the movie, in the setup. Also, given the fact the film's 81 minutes, it kind of tries to set up something, but then very quickly cranks up into high gear and the sort of the chainsaw's out again and stuff like that. But it feels like in the town of Harlow, a group of, I think, 2 people who own like a restaurant pop-up food truck or something have somehow convinced a bank that has basically taken over an entire town in terms of receivership to put on an auction to sell the buildings to influencers, TikTokers, and people who would run artisanal bread shops and craft markets and stuff like that in order to gentrify this entire sort of Texan town. But when they get there, there's still someone in one of the buildings who refuses to leave, and she is taking care of someone who may or may not be familiar, and in a scuffle and an argument, she suffers a heart attack, and then that sort of triggers the return of everyone's favourite face-wearing killer. Is that sound about right? Is that the sort of plot that you guys managed to pick up from this film? Because it was not really detailed all that much for me, I thought.
I think that is about right. Except when you watch it, you're like, yeah, that is the plot, but really, it's I'm used to sort of kind of bending sort of reality a little bit with these types of films, but I just didn't really buy into kind of that this sort of had happened, that they managed to buy a town, really.
Yeah, came to that sound about right for you?
Yeah, I think so. I guess it kind of semi made sense because they said things like, people are kind of sick of living in a horrible world, and they kind of wanted to go and like build their own little section of society. So it kind of made sense. Yeah, it kind of sounded like they had like found this place and figured out the bank owned it and kind of suggested to the bank that maybe they should do this, and because the woman from the bank was like, oh, thanks so much, like we never would have sold all these horrible buildings out in the middle of nowhere like without you, basically. So I think it was kind of them trying to pre-populate the town so that their restaurant would have customers, and then also kind of creating this sort of like hipsterville around them of everyone else. So like, yeah, it didn't, I don't know how likely that is in real life, but it made sense enough, I think, to go along with it.
It just about was believable enough to allow an entire busload of people to be brought to a town where Leatherface happens to be residing. And I mean, if in terms of requels, reboots, remakes, etc. Apparently, this one is it's a direct sequel as you can get for a film which is nearly 50 years old. And it's not really got into much in terms of backstory and the fact that this man is living with this woman who's been looking after him for several years. None of the rest of the original family, are around. Again, it's one of those questionable sort of, how old is this guy? And he still seems fairly mobile for a guy who's, well, probably at least in his minimum sort of 70s. And the fact that, if it is a direct sequel to the first one, would have probably been walking around with a limp because he did kind of nick himself in the leg with a chainsaw. But that seems to have healed over time. I mean, were you guys looking for any sort of more sort of exploration into the backstory of where he's been all this time? And it doesn't really sound like he's been hiding out too much. I did find it weird that this Sally Hardesty, who is the original character from the first one, had been searching for him for 40, 50 years and been unable to find him. And then suddenly, oh, he's over there. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit weird because I think, so Texas Chainsaw 3D is a direct sequel to the original film as well. And they just give you sort of enough backstory as to why it's the same kind of deal. Like Leatherface has been in hiding since 1974, though the timeline in that film is a little bit iffy. But it's a little bit of backstory of like the rest of the family got like mob attacked by the townsfolk, and Leatherface was the only one that escaped and went to live with his mum/aunt, and then she died and he was on his own. So that sort of made sense. I think in this one, the only sort of hint of a backstory that you get is like because the woman he's living with runs like a boys' home, and there's like a picture of all the boys, and then just this one like hulking one that still looks like a could be a teenager, though not like an adult man, with his face scratched out, which is weird because they make the whole point of saying like, oh, the reason she can't find Leatherface is because he was wearing like a face mask, and that's like, how would she ever know who he is? That's the only thing. But so yeah, it was a little bit weird because you get the impression from stuff that happens at the end of the film that the location for the original massacre was very close to the location of this film, so therefore it wouldn't have been that hard to find him. I would have liked a little bit of maybe what happened to the family if they got arrested or found, or just sort of went their separate ways to kind of protect themselves. But yeah, so it was a little bit, I guess it was I needed a little bit more to sort of figure out how he'd kind of ended up there, and I think they could have done that quite quickly without dwelling on it too much and just kind of giving you a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, they make a point of having two of them enter the house to try and find the deeds to the house to find out if she still owns it. I mean, that's the perfect opportunity to surely, happen to come across a folder with all the relevant information that the audience needs to catch up on about, family, hounded out of town, family killed, it's boys still missing, etc., etc. It would have been very easy to do. I mean, would that have helped you, Lee, to sort of piece together what happened in the 50 odd years?
I think not to toot my own horn here, but I felt like I had a better idea about how you kind of start this movie and get to that point. Like, oh really? No, please do pitch us your remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, like I believe it or not, like I hadn't watched the trailer, and apart from seeing that slightly annoying, it's like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster trying to masquerade as like a Terrence Malick movie thing, which made me just laugh a lot. Like
I would have watched that movie if it had been entirely like that. I think that would have been a better.
Like, I liked the idea that it was like these influencers come to kind of town in a way. It's like, we've seen some films do that kind of quite well recently. Like, what was the movie about where the guy's like driving around like in a car or something like that, and he's filming the whole thing. Like, I thought, I wonder if
Spree.
Yeah, I thought, I wonder if it'll be kind of similar to that. But and I must admit, like, I watched it on, was it Sunday or Saturday afternoon, and I'd kind of seen a lot of rotten reviews. But I must admit, for the first few seconds, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm gonna kind of like it, because I think it opens with this sort of like little documentary where it was like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and like the kind of gives you a little bit of the backstory. And I had it in my head that you were going to kind of get these like sort of influencers, and you see it a lot of the time where, you know, it can be done rather badly, or, you know, sometimes with a little bit of kind of subtlety, where you see a lot of these influencers go to places like sort of Chernobyl, or places where like horrific events have kind of happened, and sort of like explore it or kind of break it down for people. And I kind of got the impression that sort of like you were going to get these sort of like influencers like that were really into sort of the horror genre, just like imagining like sort of a Kim Morrison, but that's got like a TikTok account or something like that, or like a YouTube channel or something like that. And that they were going to go to this kind of town where like it's got this like big reputation within like that sort of community, and it's a mystery of like they never saw this guy ever again, what happened to them. And like they're kind of like, you know, similar to almost the Blair Witch Project, like they're going to go to this town, it's going to be abandoned, sort of explore it, and then sort of like they almost kind of happen into this sort of like, you know, house, and, you know, things unravel from there. But, you know, as I was watching it, I was kind of like, oh, they're kind of like, they're buying this kind of town. And I must admit, going into any horror movie, whether it's a kind of slasher or an elevated horror movie, I don't really ever expect to see young kids arguing with an old woman about the deeds to a house. Like, I was watching that going, this isn't very exciting or interesting. Whereas I kind of had this image of like, you know, kids kind of going out into the wilderness and then things going all drastically wrong. Like, that feels like it's an easier pitch than all these group of like YouTubers, TikTokers, Twitter accounts all band together to come and gentrify a town. Like, you can still kind of make that message by having them come, but like you don't need to kind of have like this juggled idea that they're coming to buy this entire town and do something with it. Like, you can still have that interest of them coming to the town, exploiting the people, the story, you know, these traumatized people that are, you know, associated with that town. Like, I felt that was a much more interesting kind of start to a movie. And then the rest of like the killing and the slashing all takes place, and that speaks for itself. But that to me feels like a much better, smoother kind of start, and dare I say, frankly, superior.
Yeah, so essentially you'd think if it started, say, with a couple of podcasters looking into true crime and looking to sort of solve the mystery of this killer and what happened to him, you think something like that?
Yeah, like that, you can immediately buy that as a reason that they would go to this town, as opposed to they've done it.
Lee, you have just described the opening to 2018's Halloween.
Oh, have I? Oh gosh.
which also happens to star a woman who was traumatized in her past, who now has long grey hair and a tank top, who's looking to seek revenge for that one night that she knows that the killer will return, and evil must die tonight.
I mean, all these things are a rip-off of each other anyway. And I mean, I must admit, everyone knows I've never seen that movie. I still maintain that's a better idea. Just like jiggle it a bit. I bet they didn't have TikTok people kind of head into town, and I can just imagine Kim's face now just listening to me pitching that idea of like, sweet Jesus, if this guy had just actually watched these Halloween movies like I told him to, he would never have felt so smug about this.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as yours. I watched a documentary recently, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one they made about like the making of Texas Chainsaw, and they basically said in that they tried to portray Leatherface as a kind of Frankenstein's monster character, where you look at him and you're scared, but like really he's not doing all that much wrong. Like he's just sort of acted on instinct rather than the rest of his family, who are quite obviously quite sadistic about it, whereas he's just you see him getting quite stressed out about stuff. It's like you said, people are kind of coming into his home. Like he's not, in the first film anyway, he is not hunting people down to kill them. They come to his house, and that's why they end up getting murdered. But he's not really like a hunt and catch kind of serial killer. So I think I like that version better. That kind of carries through to Texas Chainsaw 3D, because again, he only starts killing people when they come into his house. He's sort of locked in like a little basement, which he's quite happy to go back into at the end, because I think he realizes he can't probably like integrate into society. So he's quite happy to keep himself safe and keep other people safe, and he only kills those people because they're in amongst it. So I think doing that in this film, yeah, kind of carried the same thing through. Like he appears at the top of the stairs when Melody's arguing with his like mum or whatever she is, caretaker, and then she just tells him to go away, and he does. So like he isn't like this mindless killing machine. He kills in his grief and his rage. And I think there's other films where people do that, like something really bad happens to them and they turn around and it's like a revenge horror thing, and you're on the side of that person because Leatherface is like big and scary and cuts people's faces off. Though they don't really explain that in this one, because in the first one, like you don't really know like why he wears a face. He's got all these different faces that he wears, and he has sort of very different personalities. In this one, he just murders like two people, and then he's immediately like, right, guess I better cut her face off and stick it on. Like that bit seems a bit weird. But I think in some of the sequels, they make him out to be like full on sadistic. In the second one, he's sort of the same. He's getting bossed around by his family. But in 3, I think it is, which is also called Leatherface, because this series loves really confusing naming conventions, he's really murdery. He has all these like children that he's had from like raping his victims and stuff. Apparently he's just a really like horrible, nasty person, which I think completely sort of misses the point of him entirely. He is this sort of like half kind of sympathetic character, and I'm not sure they got that entirely right in this one, but they at least tried to give him a logical reason. He has gone like 50 years without presumably chainsawing anyone up, but it's sort of this like trigger that happens to him that makes him go for it. So it sort of fits him, but I don't think it does it as well as like Texas Chainsaw 3D does. But I did appreciate that they went for that rather than the full villain story.
Yeah, no, actually, I did always enjoy in the first one that he had his different faces, almost like he had his evening wear face with the makeup and the sort of bigger hair and stuff like that. So yeah, it would have been nice to see a collection of those. But yeah, I mean, Lee, what did you make of Leatherface's motivations in this one?
Well, firstly, I want to add as my little claim to fame for this one that, was it Ginny? She was called, sort of like the mother. I sat across from her on a train one time with former guest of this podcast, Carlos Miranda. We were sat across from her. Her name's like Alice Krieger. She plays the Borg Queen in Star Trek. And yeah, we were sat near her on the train when she was heading to the Star Trek convention. Otherwise than that, like, it's a pretty kind of, again, sort of tenuous thing of like, oh, the mother dies and then he kind of goes a bit berserk and, you know, starts this kind of killing spree. It's another one of these things where it just feels like you maybe didn't need to make that kind of leap and so on. Like, you can just sort of have him maybe like exposed and so on. Like, you know, you didn't need to kind of go to this level where, you know, like he was kind of brought out of anger because, like, you know, there was a huge, again, dispute over like the deeds, and then they didn't have the deeds, and then she's like has a heart attack. It's all just really convoluted stuff. Like, you could have made just a simple kind of motivation that, you know, he's been in hiding, and now he kind of needs to sort of like, you know, kill these people to keep it hitting, because there's still like, you know, hunters out there, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre character that's out there, and, you know, if this gets out, you know, his life's in danger, you know. So again, you know, I'm sure that's now been a done idea, but again, it's a really simple idea that I think is better than this movie that they've presented.
Yeah, and in sort of terms of sort of like the characters that he stalks, I mean, you've got Elsie Fisher from eighth grade, who is about the only one who has any sort of backstory. I mean, her sister is apparently a cook. The other guy in their car is an influencer and also runs a restaurant, and then the other one is his girlfriend, I think. But that's about it. You've got a redneck who initially they have a fight with, but then all realize, oh no, he's the guy who's actually helping us in town. Awkward. But then it maybe seems like he's like a redneck with a heart of gold, like Sam Rockwell can play like no other. And then that's about it. And so Elsie Fisher's character was the victim of a high school shooting massacre, and then she finds herself in the middle of another massacre and in one of the most contentious and probably problematic storylines. Potentially, I mean, I don't want to know the. I'm not going to guess on the political leanings of the filmmakers or whatever, but the fact that this victim of this high school shooting, the only way that she can get through this is to embrace guns, is quite a flex. What did everyone make of that character's motivations? Lee, we'll come to you first, since you're an eighth grade fan.
Yeah, it was pretty silly, wasn't it? There are plenty of ways to again kind of get around killing someone. Like you can have it like it's potentially more interesting. You think of something like a Home Alone, for example. I'm not going to pitch a thing where they lure Leatherface into this house and then they've got some paint cans that try and knock him out and they burn him and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to do that. But you should maybe just do something like that where you can kind of stay true to kind of that character's kind of, beliefs and so on, as opposed to having them decide that, the best way to kill someone with like a chainsaw is to have someone with like a gun, etc. You could sort of like have them succeed on their own term. And that's always more interesting. I mean, as you kind of get to the sort of the climax of the movie and people are like shooting Leatherface with like shotguns, etc., it's not particularly interesting. Whereas if you use your environment, I mean, they basically have this entire town that they can use. That's a potentially more of an interesting kind of film that I think right there. So yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Halloween 2008 meets Home Alone. Immediately better film.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed they didn't have like an old like blacksmiths or an old butcher shop or something that they could have gone into to collect some meat cleavers or something like that. Kim, what did you make of, I guess, our final girl, so to speak?
So I think at the time I never even thought about the like ironicness, I guess, on an Alanis Morissette scale of her using a gun when she'd been in a high school shooting. I wasn't really thinking about that, but I read loads of people's opinions on that later, and I was like, oh yeah, that does seem a bit forced. But I liked sort of the stuff of her sort of flashing back to that kind of trauma and the fact that her sister kind of didn't think she could look after herself and things, and she kind of proved that she could, and she kind of froze up in a couple of situations, but like managed to kind of pull herself out of it. I kind of like that side of it. But I think with the whole gun thing, I think it's difficult because like I can't really think of another Texas Chainsaw Massacre film where they don't usually have like a kind of traditional final girl showdown. It's usually people running away from Leatherface and just trying to survive. They very rarely try and actually kill him. It's usually just trying to get out of there. They've I think one of them tried to hit him with a car, but like Jessica Biel, I think she hit him in a slaughterhouse and then she just kind of runs and leaves, and Sally obviously just kind of runs and leaves. There's a kind of common thing in Texas Chainsaw Massacre films where the final girls end up throwing themselves full bodily through a window because they're just so desperate to get away from him. So I think having the sort of the Sally saying to her don't run, you can't run, you need to face this down, I think it put them in a difficult position of what are two almost murdered, very injured women gonna do against this massive guy with a chainsaw. So I think it was kind of difficult. They kind of maybe backed themselves in a corner of being like, well, a gun's maybe the only thing that could possibly be a fair fight against them, I think. So yeah, it's a weird one. I'm not sure why they they probably could have picked like a different trauma for her. Like she could have been in a different kind of accident or something rather than it being so gun related. But I do think they definitely had a proper like final showdown with Leatherface where they were trying to kill him before they left rather than just running away. So yeah, it kind of proved a bit difficult, I think, to have a kind of weapon that would take him down without resorting to a shotgun. So yeah, I'm not sure what else. I would have loved to have seen them like Home Alone it, because I think that would be great. I love when the stuff that like Nancy does in Nightmare on Elm Street to kind of do that kind of style of thing, and just watching Freddy Krueger just like roll around in the real world getting electrocuted and stuff. So I would have been a fan of that, but I think yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. I feel like they could have done it a bit differently, but they decided to go for the big like all guns blazing, no pun intended, kind of final battle instead of it just being like people running for their lives, which is what it usually is.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned sort of Sally's advice there about don't run, otherwise, it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And I mean, we'll talk about her now and her return. Obviously, it's not the original Marilyn Burns, because sadly she passed away in 2014. But it's been taken on by Alwyn Fury, and she comes back basically looking like a cookie cutter identical carbon copy of Laurie Strode, who's been through this horrible thing and has never been able to let it go. And I mean, I know a lot of people are sort of complaining about this aspect of the film where they felt that the showdown was very underwhelming and didn't have the cathartic payoff that they were expecting. I mean, I guess it's maybe trying to differentiate itself from Halloween in that respect, even though it feels like it was a film that was greenlit because of the success of Halloween and stuff like that. And you do a reboot recall and you bring back a legacy character to tie it into the original movie and stuff like that. But I mean, one of the things I did like about it was when she was in the house with Leatherface, and he was just sort of sitting on the bed with his chainsaw, maybe thinking like, "Oh, my job's over. Maybe they're all going to leave now." But then she was like, "Tell me you know me, to say my name. Remember what you did to me." And then he kind of just walks off, sort of proving that for him, it was nothing. He can't even remember her probably. She's carried this around, this whole track thing, thinking that, this was this, I guess, similar to Laurie and Michael, that they were forever linked. And for Leatherface, it was just another day almost, and that he has no memory of it at all, and, doesn't care that she's here. But she's just another person who's come back into his house, essentially.
Yeah, and that's like I say, if anyone asked me about sort of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I could barely describe it, but I knew a character kind of survived. I remember it being a woman, and when I watched the film the other day, I wasn't aware until afterwards that it had been recast, which is fine, because and then I discovered that the person had died. So yeah, of course that's kind of fine to do, but it felt so underwhelming, and I was sitting there thinking like, I'm not really a fan of this franchise. I haven't spent X amount of money on sort of one of the dodgy sequels in a special box. So if I was one of those people, how annoyed would I be that she kind of arrives for a few minutes, kind of gets into a bit of a scrap, has no influence on it, and basically ends up shot and lying on a bin bag. And I couldn't help but think like, there's a message potentially in there, that's being sent about like this legacy character just chucked on a bag of bins and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's not very subtle. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, I can't speak to the Halloween films. I've only ever seen a few of them, but you have someone like, kind of Jamie Lee Curtis, and, you'll correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but, you have this feeling that she is this huge legacy character. She's revered and respected. And, rightly or wrongly, when she's involved, it kind of elevates things a little bit. And, you see it recently with some of the Scream movie as well, where they do interesting things kind of with the legacy characters. They've got a confidence, they're involved, they try to influence things, they share their experience. And then you have this kind of character that spent nearly 50 years sort of like being part of like a state trooper hunting this kind of character, and then it immediately gets kind of torn down. I mean, that is an interesting idea to an extent that you build up for 50 years, that this character is going to come back and that, you know, it's this shared trauma and, like, you know, it might just immediately be discarded and it's nothing and you subvert expectations. But this film isn't as smart to do that correctly. I just think they completely botched it. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm glad I'm not a franchise fan because I would be livid. I don't know if you guys were, but I was annoyed on your behalf.
I mean, one thing, I feel like Leatherface not remembering her, it was a very, like, poignant moment and everything, but surely he would remember her because he must have, like, that must have been the day everything went to shit for him and he had to, like, leave his house and go move in with this woman, and, like, there's the implication that that was the last thing that happened, and then he had to go and hide him because Sally survived. So you feel like he would remember that. That seemed really daft to me. I know it was meant to, like, yeah, make a point about the whole her being obsessed with it and him not caring, but it just seemed really silly. I think overall, Sally, she pops up in a few of the sequels, usually kind of either in the opening crawl or I think is it the fourth one you kind of see her a little bit. So in one she goes insane and then dies, and then another one she's in a mental hospital, and then another one I think she just dies because even though they're meant to be the same timeline, the story's slightly different in each one. So it was exciting the thought of seeing her back, but I think sort of before she even turned up in town, I mean, she turns up in town with like 15 minutes left in the film, and I was like, well, whatever they do with her, it's gonna be terrible. Like, nothing, because if she just turns up and kills him, like, that's really anticlimactic, or if she just turns up and, like, he kills her, that's anticlimactic as well. It just felt like, yeah, it felt like they shoved it in because of Halloween, but it feels really different because, like, I'm not saying that Laurie Strode wasn't totally traumatized by what happened to her in the first Halloween, because she was, but it's a very, like, sort of condensed experience for Laurie. She kind of turns up right at the end of everyone being murdered and finds everyone's bodies and everything, and then she as well doesn't spend the rest of the time looking for him. She kind of spends the rest of the time, like, protecting her family in case he shows up. So the state that Sally's in at the end of that film, like, she is kind of Danny from Midsummer. You can't tell if she's laughing or crying. She's just, like, screaming her face off. The thought of that she would even want to try and find him, go anywhere, need him, even live in Texas, like, what is she doing? Like, get on a plane, move to a different country. Like, he's not going to get a passport. Like, go away from him. Don't be anywhere near him. I don't know why she would try, and then I don't know why she would go, like, solo to try and hunt him down. It just seemed really, I said this to someone else before we even saw the film. I was like, it just seems really strange that she would want to, like, hunt him down. And I know she said, like, oh, running away left her traumatized and things, but, like, yeah, I just it just seemed a bit odd. It didn't really seem in character. I feel like she would have just wanted to get as far away from the whole situation as possible. And I think the sort of dynamic that we had going between the two sisters in the last sort of chunk was fine. It didn't need her in there. I would have been fine with her not being in the film at all, and it would have been absolutely fine, because her just coming and just added sort of the added irritation of, like, oh, I'm in a car and we could escape, but I'm going to go and shout at Leatherface when I could, like, it just seems really silly. And again, I do kind of get if that was the point they were trying to make of, like, yeah, him not having any connection to it and her having ruined her whole life over it, but it just seemed a bit silly. Like, she had so many chances to just shoot him in the face and she missed them all, and then, yeah, it was just a bit daft. It would have been a better film without her. They Halloween resurrectioned her and it wasn't good.
So, yeah, a lot of it sort of doesn't really make narrative sense. Some of it's underwhelming, but on paper, this is a film set in Texas that does indeed feature a massacre with a chainsaw. So how does it stack up in terms of kills? Lee, I'm going to come to you first, since you've seen less kills in the franchise. What did you make of, like, the ones in Leatherface's house and then the big moment on the bus Did it do it for you?
No, not at all. I must say, I was really impressed for a moment with the guy that, like, I think he got his arm broken, and then they used like the bone to, like, kind of the broken bone as like a kind of knife. I thought, like, oh, I mean, this maybe shows how limited my knowledge of this blood and gore is, but I was like, oh, I've never kind of seen that used as a sort of weapon before. Like, I gave that props, and yeah, like, I know the big moment, you know, which again, in my version of Halloween 2018, these Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, you kill all these influencers. Like, it was kind of interesting watching this, like, kill scene sort of on the bus, but in the reality after like 10 seconds, it was like, oh, this is kind of boring and so on. Like, you know, I've seen better movies like on a bus in the past few years. Like, you think of like Nobody, you know, they did a really good like kind of fight scene on sort of a bus. You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but Shang-Chi did an interesting one. It was just like, if you're going to go for sort of this like kill kind of streak, you could kind of do it in a bit more of an interesting way. And again, it sort of ties in where, like, it makes more sense that they're just these influencers that come to town, where, I mean, it looks so stupid, but it could be done better, where you see, like, they've got, like, you know, when you like screen share Zoom and you like see PowerPoint, etc., like, you have this kill stream going on, and then every so often it cuts to like a phone, and it's not even like a phone in someone's hands, it's just like a picture of like a mobile phone on a screen with sort of like a blurred out background, just showing the TikTok or Twitch kind of stream, which was like, okay, there's an interesting kind of idea there. You know, you can imagine it in the cinema where you're like, oh, I'm streaming, oh no, we're in like Leatherface's house, and then you kind of see him coming down, and you know they're gonna get it, etc. Like, again, it's not a revolutionary idea, but like, it's more interesting than literally just putting on a screen share picture of a mobile phone and sort of having the kills take place. Just none of them were memorable outside of, oh, they killed a bunch of people on a bus.
You know, I think with that, I think if it had been like, you know, they were visiting this town with all this history and stuff like that, and then like, it was like, oh, this guy's dressed up as Leatherface or something, because it just seemed slightly wrong that they would all just immediately take their phones out and like be, oh, you're gonna get cancelled, bro, if you try anything. It's like, he's clearly not caring about any of that, and you're all going to die. So yeah, but I mean, there was some nice little, I think I need to go through almost frame by frame to look at the comments on it, because I think someone said, I've seen scarier haunted houses 4 out of 10 or something, for when a guy was getting a chainsaw to the stomach. So I mean, there's probably some fun things in that.
Babadook could be in there.
So Kim, what did you make of the kills? Where do they rank on the Texas Chainsaw scale?
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good. Like you said, the first one's not super gory. A lot of it's kind of left to the imagination. Or if you're seeing blood, like when Franklin gets killed, there's a lot of blood, but you're not seeing like what's happening, because apparently it was like the actor who played Franklin had a mouthful of fake blood and he was just spitting it like at Leatherface, and other people were doing it as well. So yeah, you never sort of see the connection. It's always sort of one or the other. And I think the kind of later films definitely dialed that up a lot more. So I think it kind of fits in with the later films, but it definitely went more kind of full on gory. I like the hand arm break kill. I like the guy getting his head bashed in with like the swinging door, or like behind the swinging door, so you were just seeing like bits of it. I thought that was very sort of reminiscent of the first one, where again you're not quite seeing everything, you're just seeing bits of it. I like the girl getting sawn in half on the bus as well and sort of falling out the window. I do think the bus scene was cool, because I think the thing that Leatherface never really gets is like a huge body count. It's always like a remote location and like 2 or 3 people show up and he murders them horribly and maybe one escapes and that's it. So I think giving him the chance to just go absolutely bananas on a bus of people was like a fun thing to see. It was a bit different for that series anyway. So yeah, I saw a lot of people sort of raving about the bus scene online, and again, I thought it was alright. A bit like Lee, it got a wee bit boring after a while, because you're really always just gonna, unless it was like sort of a different kill, it was just him chainsawing like 20 people in a row. But I thought all the kills and the effects and stuff looked really good. There's one kill that was, I appreciated the effect of it, but I was so angry at the person dying that I can't enjoy it. So there's that as well. But I thought they did a really good job of making it quite gory and violent. Interesting kills, I guess, apart from the bus scene, which felt a bit just sort of overkill for the sake of it. I think all the other ones really had a lot of like sort of thought put in them. Oh, the guy as well, getting his leg like broken. That was spectacular.
I think that was probably my favourite one. I think was the redneck guy who got
beautiful
his leg broken, and then I think a bit of glass through the neck, and then his head bludgeoned in with a hammer or something, again and again and again and again. The bus scene. I did enjoy the bus scene, but I think you're right. There's only so many combinations of limbs and appendages or organs that can be sliced and diced. That after a while it does get a little bit repetitive. But that was a fun moment, and you can kind of see why they kind of leaned into that in the trailers and stuff like that. Once they got past the sort of Terrence Malick fields of wheat, and still one of my favorite shots I think was that trailer thing with just Leatherface's head popping up in the wheat, and it's just like, oh, well, look, there he is. So, I mean, you alluded to a certain death there. I'm going to put up a spoiler warning now, and we can talk about the ending. At the end, it's like, Leatherface has been defeated, apparently, as always, they're never really dead, are they? Because you never know. They have to at least see how many people watch it on Netflix this weekend before they have to decide if they want to make another one. And everything's hunky dory. Lila's taken Sally's hat. They're going to drive off in a driverless car. Apparently, they're now a proper thing in America, it seems. And then, for me, it almost felt like, was that a dream sequence at the end when Leatherface returns and, spoiler wise, kills her sister, drags her out of the car, and then cleanly chops off her head before he does his little happy dance with the chainsaw and stuff like that. I take it was that the kill you were referring to?
That was my one, yeah. That was.
And why were you angry about that? Just because they should have driven out of there a lot sooner?
Well, so many things. I when it got about halfway through the film, and Melody, who is the older sister, goes through so much stuff. She runs away from Leatherface.
You mean running through a pipe full of shit?
Yeah, she gets chucked through stairs. She's under the cellar. She gets covered in stuff. She comes out. She sees everyone get murdered. She escapes a bus. She's like, you just go. He's gonna kill me. Like she goes through so much stuff. And I actually, about halfway through the film, I stress Googled the ending. I was like, I can't cope. I need to know if she lives or dies, because I'm not going to enjoy it. And then when I Googled it, I literally scrolled to Wikipedia to the last line, and it was like, Leatherface chops off Melody's head and then dances. And I was like, are you actually kidding me? I'm so angry. And then I just watched the rest of the film in like an absolute rage. Because, one, you would have literally, the minute he fell in the water, you would have ran and got in that car. There would have been no, I don't know how much they waited. They made it seem like it was like it was sunlight by the time they went in the car. They made it seem
definitely
like
daytime, early morning when they left. So a good chunk of time had passed.
Just sauntered about, went to the car. Like you would have got out there because like all your friends had died. You still had to go and tell the police and everything. Like get out of there instantly. But also, I don't feel like he could have snuck up. I'm sure it was the chainsaw running when he snuck up on them. Like, how did they not hear him?
He would have. He would have had to have it running because he would have had it. It would have been in one hand, and then he pulled her out with the other. So they should have heard.
Yeah, I did appreciate the coolness because I don't think I've ever seen anyone get so swiftly beheaded with a chainsaw before. Like usually it's other deaths where he like sticks it in people and lifts them up or slices limbs off, and the fact that he just did it, he literally just holds her by the hair and it is impressive. But I was so angry because one, I liked her so much more than the other sister. Two, she went through so much like final girl stuff. She was amazing. I was like rooting for her the whole time, and then just for her to do that. And yeah, you're right. It did seem very dreams. It felt very like Nightmare on Elm Street, the car turning into Freddy, kind of dream sequencey. And I would love it if it had been. That would be fantastic.
So you would have actually, in an ideal world, switched it round and had Lila die and Melody be the because that would have actually been a nice switch on the final girl thing, where the girl who's been through all the trauma dies actually, and then it's the sister that survives.
I said that to write for a website called Ghouls, and we had a group chat after we'd all watched it, like analysing it. And someone else said, like, oh, the death was amazing, but I was really sad it was her. And they were like, I would have been happier if they'd swapped it. And I was like, yeah, I would as well, because it was a really good death, but I probably could never enjoy watching it because I was so angry. Whereas they were saying, like, oh, if exactly kind of what you said, like she spent that whole time trying to protect her sister and she was constantly sacrificing herself, and then it would have been even like kind of sadder for the sister to die in the end and for Melody to get away and then have to deal with the kind of the trauma of watching her die. And then that, if they made a sequel and she was in it, I think that would be a more interesting thing rather than, because otherwise the other girl just watched all her friends die in a school shooting, and then she watched all her friends and her sister die in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, she's just gonna like go home and lie down in a dark room. Like, she's never gonna be in a sequel. That's not nice. So yes, it was a spectacular death. It was beautiful. If I hadn't googled it, I'm sure it would have been very shocking. But I was just raging. I was so angry. I probably would have rated it a lot higher than I did had they not killed her off, because I was just so angry.
Are you one of these people who Googles, does the dog die at the end of the movie?
Oh, I have to do that because my boyfriend gets traumatized watching dogs die, and anytime a dog pops up in a film and he's like, does it die? And I'm like, oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, there's a new movie called Dog out at the moment, and apparently that's basically the #1 trending search thing is people don't want, they've had such a bad couple of years, they cannot face going into a movie to find out that after like 90 minutes the dog dies. So it sounds like we need to get the rights to this movie and remake it with Lee's sort of podcasters, sort of true crime investigation of the thing, and then you would switch out the ending and have the other girl become the thing. Lee, what did you make of it? Did you think it was a dream, or does it seem? I mean, nobody woke up, so I'm assuming it is real, even though she did drive off in a convertible self-driving car. I was like, what on earth is this?
No, I thought that was always what was going to kind of happen. It felt like they'd given so much. Yeah, they'd given so much trauma to Elsie Fisher's kind of character. Like, she wasn't going to be the one that died. It always felt like you kind of look at her as sort of like the Sigourney Weaver kind of character. Like, she's not the obvious one, but when you think about it, it's obvious that she's going to be the one that kind of escapes. And I was kind of like expecting in that kind of last few moments, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be the sister that kind of gets it kind of here and so on. And yeah, obviously that kind of came to pass. I think what did surprise me was when that moment happened, I looked at my Netflix. So much like Kim, she's looking ahead to the end. I'm like, oh, there's got to be like another kind of couple more minutes that's like here to come. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, this movie's like, I know it's short, but this is short. And then I realized there's like 12 minutes of credits to come. I was like, oh right, I thought there was going to be more. And then I just like skipped through it thinking like there's got to be a more post-credit sequence to what's happening here. Like, I thought there would be more to that moment. It was shocking, but not surprising.
Yeah, and then did you all sit around for the post-credit scene? Yeah, Lee, did you not skip forward or start watching the preview of something else?
No, I scanned through. I thought they would probably do something like that because I thought it was like, with this length of time, like there's bound to be maybe like, maybe similar to Marvel, like a 3-minute clip, because like there's no way that there's like 1/7 of this film's runtime is like the closing credits. So I just sort of did a quick scan through, and then I noticed there was like a 20-second clip. So nope, 1/7 of this film was dedicated to credits.
Yeah, and then I mean, he's walking along the road to a farmhouse or something. I mean, I did look at Wikipedia, and it says he goes back to the home of the original Massacre, and I'm like, well, that's not the original home from the 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I can tell you that. Kim, did you recognize the house? Is it one from another version of the story, or is it just meant to be he's going home eventually?
Yeah, I didn't recognize it either. Yeah, like you, I read it afterwards that it was the original house. The clip's so short, I don't know if I would in fact, I probably read it before the clip, because I must have read it when I read that Melody got her heat whacked off. So I probably knew it before, and I was still like, oh, yeah, it looks like the house.
Because it didn't even like look at like the mailbox and like have a name on it that you would have connected with the family or anything like that. It was just like it was over before you could really register what was going on. It's like, is he going to someone's house to kill them and take over the house? But no, apparently he went back to his original home. But
Which was so close. So how could no one find him? I don't understand.
well, we don't know how many days he'd been walking. 12 minutes of end credits at a couple of miles. Yeah, it's probably, it must be fairly within walking distance. Because, I mean, the police chief and that says, they've been through so much, this town, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, he's been hiding in almost plain sight this year. So, yeah, Sally Hardesty mustn't have been that much of a Texas Ranger, quite frankly. So... Lee, you've seen two of them. Where do each of them rank on your list?
This will be quite easy for me. The original and then this one. So it's definitely. I'm sure none of you will be able to say this, but it's definitely my top two.
and Kim, out of all 9, where does this one sit?
Well, according to when I sorted it on Letterboxd by how much I'd rated them, it comes 4th. I gave it 3.5 stars. So I thought the original, the remake, and Texas Chainsaw 3D were better than it, by quite a big margin, because I really really love those 3 films. And then I kind of thought everything else was kind of below it. I enjoyed most of it. I think most of the kind of questionable plot things, like I said, made enough sense that you could sort of let them slide. I liked a lot of the kills. I really liked the sisters as characters and things, and most of the kind of logic of Leatherface being there made sense, and I liked the sort of trueness to the character. But there was just a couple of bits that weren't great, and the whole treatment of Sally and then Melody was probably what chunked it down so much. It might have been a wee bit higher, but I thought it was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be, because I think, 1, it's the 9th film in a slasher series, so you never know what you're going to get. And 2, the Texas Chainsaw, like, the sequels are so... There's 3 separate timelines, I think, and there's prequels and sequels, and it's just all over the place, and they're very tonally all over the place. Like, even the 2 that Tobe Hooper directed are completely different films. One's a, like, black comedy, and the other one's the original one. It was really hard to know what you were getting, so I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I think it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. But I think once I got into it and sort of started connecting with the characters, the kind of last 20 minutes made me sad.
Yes, I haven't seen the second one, but I do have to admire the fact that for some reason they decided to go with a Breakfast Club rip-off of this. Hey, we're just this cool like family. Hey, but yeah, no. For me, it's probably at the bottom of the ones that I've seen. Maybe sort of joint with the Go Get 'Em Cuz, just because that's just such a wild flex. But I mean, I guess, Kim, it sounds like, are you going to be starting a hashtag Justice for Melody campaign similar to Justice for Kirby to kind of rewrite the ending to have been all a dream, and it turns out Melody's actually still alive, perhaps? I mean, would you like to revisit this timeline going forward, or do you think it's time for Leatherface to put the chainsaw back in the wall and cover it up with more plaster?
I mean, I'd be interested to see what they would do with the sequel, which is what I always say. I'm like, I'm interested to see what they do with it, because I genuinely am. I think there's been so many kind of takes on this story and things. I think it's sad that this kind of, I guess the last one did it as well, because if they're staying true to the actual timelines from the films, like all the older family members are going to be dead and stuff, and it probably is just going to be Leatherface that's left. But I think it was kind of sad that it was missing even a bit of that kind of family element this time. But I would be interested to see what they think now. If he goes back to that house, are they going to do like a sort of setup like the original, where people come to the house, like maybe even like Lee said, like kind of looking for him and then put themselves into it, or are they just gonna have him just killing people for the sake of it now? So I would definitely watch another one if they did it. And if they could figure out a way to bring Melody back to life, that would be amazing. But then I always worry when they do that, and I worry if they do Scream 6 and they bring Kirby back, because that like they kill people off, like that have been back. Like they killed Randy in Scream 2, he survived, then they killed him. So I'm always like, you can just live but don't be in the film, because then you can just stay alive forever and I don't have to watch you die like 3 films later. But yeah, no, I'd be interested to see what sort of way they went with this one. I think this one was such a specific kind of story with the whole like gentrification, Gen Z angle. I wonder if they would try and kind of follow up on that, or if they just go more kind of standard slasher with it. So I would watch it either way.
Yeah, maybe the next one, since it sort of shows him walking towards this house. What if there's a family in that house? You could have like a strangers type situation where they're sort of just peering out the, honey, there's a guy with a chainsaw outside, sort of thing. Lee, would you like to see more from this particular timeline?
No, I think I might watch Halloween 2018, see if they made a better job of it than I did, and maybe I'll watch The X-Files home tonight. But no, I'm not fussed. No.
Fair enough. I'm quite happy to wait another few years before we get another incarnation of this one, and I guess so yeah, no, we've had Halloween, we've had Scream, we've had Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I guess we're due another reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street, or is there another Friday the 13th coming out soon?
There's a whole rights battle going on with that just now. So
Is it? Yes. Oh yeah, I read about that with the computer game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, so I guess next up is it Evil Dead Rise? Evil Dead that takes place in a tower block or the city or something like that. So I guess we'll need to be reconvening for that one whenever it comes out again, unless you've got any other sort of franchises of 6 or more movies, Kim, that you want Lee to have to marathon.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but you never know.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. As always, this is our opinion. We'd love to find out what you made of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 and where it sits on your one. So drop us a message and let us know. But in the meantime, I'm off to pick up my chainsaw and put it back in the cupboard for another couple of years. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.